And I want to welcome everyone here today. And we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And again, if folks want to say the pledge along, feel free. I need all the help I can get.
BNLG 5IV.
Okay, just a moment. It always sneaks up on me. I always think it's going to be
I know.
later. Okay, here we go.
Alrighty. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everybody. And then I'd like to welcome Mary James to give us her words of inspiration and our invocation today.
Thank you. Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Okay, all right. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I was thinking as we started this month that it is Black History Month, and Oregon has a not particularly great history with African-American people in our state. That's something that we are trying to change. But I found a poem by Elizabeth Alexander, who spoke at President Obama's inauguration. And the poem is called Race, and I'm going to read just an excerpt from it. Sometimes I think about great Uncle Paul, who left Tuskegee, Alabama, to become a forester in Oregon, and in doing so became fundamentally white for the rest of his life, except when he traveled without his white wife to visit his siblings, now in New York, now in Harlem, USA. Just as pale-skinned, as straight-haired, as blue-eyed as Paul, and Black. Paul never told anyone he was white. He just didn't say that he was Black. And who could imagine an Oregon forester in 1930 as anything other than white? The siblings in Harlem each morning ensured no one confused them for anything other than what they were, Black. They were Black. Brown-skinned spouses reduced confusion. Many others have told, and yet not told this tale. When Paul came east alone, he was as they were, their brother. Many others have told and not told this tale. The one time great Uncle Paul brought his wife to New York, he asked his siblings not to bring their spouses. And that is where the story ends. Ivory siblings who would not see their brother without their telltale spouses. What a strange thing is race, and family, stranger still. Here a poem tells a story about race. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. So let me know if you have guests today or we have visiting Rotarians. Allison, Kelly, I'm going to hand it off to you to introduce your guest today.
Yeah, thank you, President Sue. So hi, everybody. Allison Kelly from Liberty House, and I am happy to introduce our guest, Vincenzo Maduri, who has been on our board of directors for, I think, at least 4 years. And Vincenzo, we're really happy to have you. He is the director of Enlightened Theatrics.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Vincenzo, good to see you.
Thank you, you too.
Yeah,
thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. As Allison said, I'm the founding artistic director of Enlightened Theatrics over at the Grand Theater downtown. And I've been kind of a guest here and there on this downtown Rotary for a while, but I'm finally in a place that I need to really just get to it and be on the Rotary. So I'm very excited to be a guest today and hopefully be a part of the Rotary going forward. We have switched our programming to more education to really get the students a opportunity to get away from their screens and really be with people at a safe social distance with masks and everything. And we are having a great experience with that. We did a production of 101 Dalmatians in November, and it was a socially distanced production. Now we're doing Les Mis School Edition, which will be live streamed in February, on February 19th. through 21st. So we'll be sure to get you all that information as well so that you can see what the kids are up to. Thank you so much.
Wonderful, thank you. And I just have to give Vinny a shout out. He's been a wonderful partner for the club as we have youth annually participate in a Youth of the Year judged event. They really become an advocate and a champion for the club and a spokesperson. And he's come in for the last several years and really helped our kids work on their speech in regard to their presence and their reflection and how they really interact with the audience. So we really appreciate you in many ways, but that is just one off the top of my head.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it too. It's very fun for me.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Holly, do you have a guest?
I don't think Holly's here.
Oh, who else is called Zoom user?
That is Holly Sue. She's
Yeah,
here.
that's what I thought.
She's muted. She's muted.
Okay, okay.
Oh, I didn't see her when I searched Holly.
Unmute. Yeah, the court.
I will get my name fixed on that. But everybody, I would like to introduce Jasmine White. Jasmine is new to Salem from Washington, D.C. She's right now the executive director of the Capital Community Media. So welcome, Jasmine. I invited her. She reached out to get to know people in the community. And I said, this club would be a great way to do that. So I've invited her to attend whenever she possibly can. Got her signed up on the e-blast, so she may pop in. Jasmine, welcome. Would you like to say a few words about you?
Sure. Thank you, Holly, and thank you for the warm welcome. Like Holly said, my name is Jasmine. I am the executive director of Capital Community Media, formerly CCTV. So some of you,
Okay.
yes, some of you might have been familiar with CCTV and Alan Bouchon, who was the previous executive director. Alan and I have known each other for over 10 years, and we had a long-standing professional relationship, and he knew he was retiring. So he convinced me to come from Washington, D.C. to move to Salem. So we're in the middle of an exciting rebrand, which is why we're now Capital Community Media.
All right.
Because we're expanding beyond TV and we do web videos, we do internet, we have an exciting new radio station. So we're doing some really cool things here, and I'm just trying to get involved in the community and get to understand some of the issues that you guys are working on and some of the work that you're doing. So that's why I'm here today. I'm not an official Rotarian, but I was involved in the Rotary Club in Silver Spring, Maryland, when I was back in Washington, D.C. So I'm familiar with the work that you guys do, and I'm excited to be here.
Great.
Well, then that does make you an official Rotarian, just not of Salem yet.
There you go. There you go. Lovely. Anyone else have, I don't see anybody else having an introduction of a guest. Oh, I take that back. Alicia, you had an introduction to do.
Thanks, President Sue. I'd like to introduce my guest, Karen Holton. She's on the call and joining us today, and a fellow Rotarian from the South Salem Club.
Great. Always good to have you, Karen.
Always good to visit you.
That's great. All righty, let's see. Just making sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. So next I'd like to hand it off to, well, once any club announcements, I haven't seen any. So I will hand it off to Larry Gray for bell ringers.
Thank you, President Sue. Welcome to our guests, Karen and Jasmine and Vincenzo. Because you're new to us, I will let you know that our bell ringers are our way of raising funds for our own Salem Rotary Foundation, which does good works in the community. And we pay $20 to make an announcement or brag or tell stories. And so my job is to read them today. I'll point out that some of our members have occasionally donated their lunch money since we aren't able to meet. They've donated their lunch money for the month to the Salem Rotary Foundation as a bell ringer. Encourage anyone who'd like to do that to do so. And I also want to, Brenna had the great idea, and Elise Bauman came up with a wonderful video. The idea is to do your bell ringer as a video. So maybe 30 seconds or 45-second video, rather than having somebody like me attempt to read your bell ringer. So with that, our first bell ringer is Allison Kelly. Allison, I would ask you to stand if we were in person. Allison is ringing the bell today for the new community campaign called I Respect and Protect. This is the product of 3 years of listening and planning. This campaign will empower youth and adults to celebrate their worth and hopefully feel more supported in making safer digital and online choices. More information can be found in today's edition of the Salem Reporter and online at irespectandprotect.com. Thank you to President Sue and her team at the Boys and Girls Club, to Cindy Lanasar and all those at Salem Health, and to all those Rotarians who have attended community meetings and focus groups. Your input has made a big difference. Let's help our next generation to have the resilience they need to succeed. President Sue, please ring the bell for I Respect and Protect. And with my long introduction, so thank you, Allison. With my long introduction, I failed to include the important note that Allison's is our only bell ringer. So if you've got one, please raise your hand or put a note in the chat ring. Chayne Greggs says she has a bell ringer. Chayne, take it away.
Thank you, Larry. President Sue and fellow Rotarians, I'm ringing the bell for our 11th grandchild that was born last week, and he is up in Kelso. So we now have 11 grandchildren.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chayne. That really makes me tired. Any other bell ringers?
Yep.
Looks like Allison has another.
Allison,
I have another one. This is called penitence. I did bell ringers about 3 weeks ago, and I'm pretty sure I completely spaced getting that sent to Pam. So my apologies, and I will offer a double bell ringer donation to the foundation in asking for everybody's forgiveness.
Thank you, Allison. I just happened to see Tricia Frizzell on the call or in the meeting, and I want to call attention to Tricia because she stepped up to serve as a bell ringer on our bell ringer committee, and you'll have a chance to initiate her very soon. Give her a hard time by giving her lots of bell ringers. Make her earn her pay. Welcome, Tricia. We're really thrilled to have you with us. And Tricia is with Home, Youth, and Resources, and many of you have worked in their building over time to do various Rotary projects. So we've known Tricia for a long time, even though she hasn't been officially a member of the club. So welcome, Tricia.
Well, thank you. I wanted to ring the bell for my mother, who I love dearly, and she has her own little farm, and she somehow convinced me to take on baby goats. So in addition to working full time and homeschooling, I now am a proud goat mama and have a two-week-old baby goats living in my garage, and they were the runts of the litter, so they're so small, so they have to have sweaters on. So my son and I enjoy putting them in like little hoodies and dresses. But I now have to schedule goat feeding as a meeting 3 times a day in my schedule until they're able to go out to the farm. So love you, Mom, and this one's for you and convincing me to be a goat mom.
I hope you will have to join us as guests soon.
Something ironic about a goat needing a sweater.
Very true. Very
so
true.
Cute. They got little hoods on them and they can barely like walk because they're just stuffed in their little sweaters. It's horrible.
Mary James has asked that you bring a video, Tricia.
Yes. Yeah.
I think we'll need that. Thank you, Tricia. Thank you for ringing the bell too. Welcome to the committee. Any other bell ringers? Sue, you can cut me off at any point. When
No,
you get
you're good. I was just cruising through the chat to see if there was anything. So now we need Chain's newest grandbaby's name and pictures of the baby goat. So this is a very, very springtime thing. That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you, Larry,
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay, well, we're ahead of schedule right now. And Cindy, I'd like to hand it off to you to introduce our speaker today. And as Cindy introduces Carla, I just have to give Carla a shout out to everything that she's done in support of healthy lifestyles, of youth and families in her current work. And she's just really making a difference in our community. So I commend her ahead of time for all her great work to support our family and our kids. So Cindy, off to you.
Okay, thank you, President Sue. Fellow Rotarians, first I'd like to beg forgiveness for my remiss for not having a virtual head table. It's been kind of busy at the vaccination clinics, and I just didn't get that done this time. But I would have had Tim Murphy on here. He's part of this work. I would have had Tricia on here. She's part of this work. And I would have had a couple other people like, Laura, Linda Bednar, she's on the board for Tricia's organization. So, I would have had one. So you'll just have to take it at that. So with that lovely introduction, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Carla Munns. She is an amazing woman, and you are going to see all of her skills in this presentation. Carla shares her experiences and her skills with the community as a business consultant aimed to bridge population health and system level initiatives across sectors. Carla brings over 15 years of excellence and experience, and she is the CEO and principal of C-Suite Consulting. She holds an international business Master's of Business Administration degree, a Bachelor of Science degree in Bachelor of Science degree in exercise science, and Carla's education and certificates spanned many institutions, including the University of Oregon, go Ducks, University of Alaska, University of Massachusetts Medical School, Southern New Hampshire University, Australia National University, and the Indian University School of Public Health. Carla is a proud Chickasaw American Indian and was born and raised in Alaska. She has a diverse professional background ranging from direct patient care as an exercise. Why can't I say this word? Carla, you're gonna have to say the word.
Physiologist.
There you go. I was gonna say psychologist, and I know that's not right. So anyway, to directing programs, systems, and grants across 70 tribal health clinics in Alaska. Carla's been successful in roles direct healthcare quality and transformation, strategic program planning, grant management, service coordination, and quality improvement, among many others. As you can tell, Carla is an exercise enthusiast, and she is proudly married to her husband and has 3 children. Carla, I'm sorry I screwed some of that up. With that, I hand it off to you.
Well, that's generous. Thank you. And President Sue, what a very sweet introduction also. I'm humbled by the work that I see in the community, and as I transitioned into a consulting role, it's been really wonderful to see the alignment and the potential for new alignment, and that's been one of the best parts of this job, for me at least. Also, Tricia, congrats on the goat. I have a little puppy here that's sleeping on my lap. So if you start hearing some little puppy French bulldog snores, just know that that's what's happening. So one of my many roles, and many of you, of course, we've met, but hopefully you learned maybe something new about me in the bio that Cindy read. One of my roles is I'm one of the 3 consultants for the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance. We all know that homelessness is one of the top issues, if not the top issue in our community. You know, there's no region unaffected in Marion and Polk counties. That is for certain. So we just finished the annual point in time count event, which took place last week, but we have 2 weeks to continue to count on where those that are experiencing homelessness slept the night of last Monday. So this is really exciting. One of the powers, I suppose, of the Alliance can be seen through this pit count this year, because it's required to be done every year, at least parts of it, and all across the nation, continuums of care, so they're HUD-funded continuums of care programs. So the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance operates as the continuum of care for Marion and Polk counties. So all across the nation during the last week of January, all continuums of care conduct this point in time count. So our region's been doing this for a long time. I think it's had its pluses and minuses throughout the different years, and you know, there will be some this year as well. But one of the exciting parts is, since the Alliance formed, seeing these alignments and seeing these different governmental organizations and social service agencies come together as partners and share resources and share materials and grants and ideas and problem solving. There's so much power in that networking and relationships that are being built. So one of the powers of this can be seen through the pit count, because this year was the very first year that the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde participated in the pit count. So this is huge for our region, and really being able to help count, identify, understand the true population of our homeless community. We know that the American Indians, Alaska Native populations have been undercounted in the past, just because of the complexity of the areas, but also just not having individuals counting in those areas that are from the region or culturally appropriate to be counting. So Lisa Lino is one of our board of directors. She's on the council for the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, and she just hopped right in and joined the pit count work group and said, we're going to do this, and if you write a grant, we'll give you some money to help with donations and incentives. And it was really powerful. So quick time check, how long do I have, Sue or Cindy, to present?
So let's, Carla, let's do about, I want to leave time for questions. We wrap at 1. So if you want to wrap up by, you know, 12:45-ish for questions, or does that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll encourage everybody, if you would like to chime in and ask questions, I do have my chat box up, but also feel free to just unmute and hop right in. I'm going to give you a lot of information, so questions will break up the information also.
Great.
So, all right, so I am able to share, although it's not pulling up.
Jessica, can you take a look on the sharing?
Gosh, sorry guys.
Did you find it, Carla?
Well, I'm not sure I'm having some tech issues the last 24 hours, so this is entirely mine, I am certain. I'm going to put in the chat box here too, just so everybody has it. And if you are looking for the website for the Homeless Alliance, a lot of documents are able to be found on this website, and also just a lot of good information. Okay, well, I'm not sure why I'm not able to share.
Do you want to, Jessica, should she hand it off to you or send the link to her PowerPoint and you could click through it?
Yeah, if she could do that.
Again, well, it's kind of toggling through a few different.
Have you opened up your presentation on your somewhere on your computer?
Yes, it's ready to go.
And did you try clicking screen share at the bottom of the screen?
Yes.
And then does it pop up a bunch of windows for you to choose from?
That's the problem.
If you send it to me, I can share it for you.
Okay, I'm so sorry, guys.
That's all right.
I can go quick through the rest of this stuff. It's showing that my camera, everything is able to be shared. Let me try it one more time. Okay, I think I found it. This is so bad, guys. This is so embarrassing. I'm so sorry. Okay, how about, is it Jesse or who's helping, or Jessica, who's helping with this?
Yeah, it's Jessica. You can send it something to me in the chat.
Okay, if you go to the Homeless Alliance website.
Okay. Yeah, I'll pull that up right now.
Okay. My gosh, and Cindy, you even sent me the Zoom thing. This has not happened before.
Just a moment.
I am just at a loss here.
You can email me the PowerPoint and just continue on with your presentation and I can catch up to you.
I know, well, it's not, oh, here, I got it. I got it. Yay.
Oh, you did?
Okay.
Should I stop sharing?
Here we go.
Okay.
Yes, please. Can everybody see my screen now?
I can see it.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. Okay. So the Homeless Alliance, as I mentioned, it operates as the continuum of care for Marion and Polk counties. So prior to the continuum of care as we know it now, it used to be, Marion and Polk counties used to be 2 of 20 plus counties in a rural Oregon continuum of care. So what that meant to our region really is we were kind of lost a bit, you know, crowded with some of the other counties. We would share funds between the counties based on projects, but the community thought, okay, we can maybe take control of our region and implement programs and become a continuum of care. So some local leaders came together. There was already a Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Initiative. So there was a lot of work to build off of to become this continuum of care. But ultimately, the overarching mission of the Alliance is to establish community-wide commitment to coordinate, leverage, and align efforts and resources to prevent and end homelessness through 3 main goals. Quickly rehouse individuals, including unaccompanied youth and families, while minimizing the trauma and dislocation caused to homeless individuals, families, and the communities. So quickly rehouse, promote access to and effective utilization of mainstream housing and homeless service programs, and optimize self-sufficiency. So to start, this group of individuals came together. I was going to show you the board, but they created an ORS 190 entity, which is what is used today to operate the continuum. So that's the governance structure in a nutshell. So we have 16 boards of directors. The Alliance has, I'll show you this too. Accomplished a lot in a very short amount of time. So me being one of 3 consultants, I'm a consultant with Jan Calvin and Janet Carlson, the former Marion County Commissioner. So you can imagine how wonderful and organized Janet is. So you know this is going to be a success if Janet puts her mind to it. So even after she moved to Idaho, she is still so much integral to the success of this continuum, to this Homeless Alliance. So we created what we called a macro timeline. So you can see some of the main highlights of how this alliance formed. So I won't go into detail too much, but really just saying July 2020, the Continuum of Care was approved by HUD in February. And then by July 2020, here is this group that is just powering through some really significant opportunities and also really building the structure and organization as we go along. So some of the systems development type work that's been great is working together with partners to create a universal release of information form. So that's being translated right now, but this group came together through one of the committees and said, you know, what we keep hearing from our individuals that are entering the system is how many times and how many different ways they have to provide the same type of information to different organizations as they're passed through referrals and through different systems. So let's make a form that everybody can use. These clients can fill it out one time, and then we just use the same form to continue on. We increased the number of users of what's called the Homeless Management Information System. So this is the tech system where we input data that everybody in the country uses. So it is a federal, it's a system that spans across the nation. So this information, it's voluntary to use HMIS. So some agencies are required to use it if they receive funding. And then other agencies like Union Gospel Mission just decided to be a part of this overall community system that they're going to train staff and join using HMIS for the greater good of the community. So we can see this snapshot really as a community system, not just for those that are paid to use the system. So we increased the number of HMIS licenses back in October from 64 to 95. We are actually evaluated by HUD on how many different service agencies, the percentage in our community are using HMIS. So this is a huge improvement, and it makes us eligible for our region to really receive a lot of funding. So one exciting thing about COC funding is that it's not dependent on population, it's dependent on performance. So Lane County, for example, their Continuum of Care, they receive a lot of money for their programs and systems, more than their population percentage, because they are so successful. So we are gearing up to be as successful as we possibly can, because that makes our programs more likely to get funded at higher amounts than others. So a lot of different things here. We identified a youth coordinated entry assessment tool through Trisha's leadership with the Youth and Young Adult Subcommittee. We have a Veteran Subcommittee, the large collaborative committee, which is where it's open to anybody to attend. It's a large stakeholder group essentially, and we come together and we put our heads down and brainstorm and problem solve and learn about the homelessness and housing system in Marion and Polk counties. We've done some presentations. The annual NOFA, the Notice of Funding Availability from HUD, that comes through once a year. This year, given COVID, was a bit strange and difficult, and they're just going to renew instead of have everybody apply for funding. So it leaves us in a bit of a situation, but as a new COC. But really the best part is that we're getting up and running. We got some experience going through this new process to review and rank local project applications so that we can have a really strong application to go toward HUD. So another example of the power of the continuum is there was an emergency solutions grant that came through with CARES Act funding. So ESG COVID CV2 grant. And the community came together and it said, okay, what should we apply for? Let's put together a collaborative application. So this collaborative application had partners essentially propose projects, local projects, to go into this large grant application that will hopefully let us know within the next couple of weeks. But we applied for $5.5 million just for Marion and Polk counties. So the power of this alliance is really fantastic, also with resources and just the partnership sharing that's happening. So what does our community look like? So these data that I'm about to show you, can you see this document with yellow and orange? Okay. So there is a very large document called the gaps analysis, and that website that I put into the chat box has the entire document, but this is what we call the fast facts. So this is what I'm going to share with you. And I also encourage you to use this document as you will to share and raise awareness, educate your community partners. But I also want to point out that I'm doing a presentation later today also, and some of the data has changed for our local data. It's significant in some ways. So some of that will be because we have more individuals using HMIS, so it gives us a better snapshot, but also the population really is increasing. Our chronic homelessness is really increasing.
Excuse me, Carla?
Yes.
Could you enlarge that so to the parts you want us to see? It's
yes.
Pretty dense.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, much more. Thank you.
Is that better?
Little.
A little? Okay.
You can always scroll down to the part you want us to see.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So what's our current local status look like related to housing and homelessness? So in a nutshell, the Marion and Polk region is growing, aging, living in poverty, and becoming more diverse. So nearly 26% of Marion and 13% of Polk identify as Hispanic and Latinx, both higher than the 12% in Oregon. We have a higher number of members speaking a language other than English at home than in the state. Nearly 15%, this was really powerful to me when I was doing some research, but nearly 15% of community members in our region live with a disability. This is increasing, but when you think about it, 15% is very significant. And the number of programs and housing options, I know, has become a priority for Marion County, if not both counties. But how can we take better care of our community members that live with a disability, especially since it is increasing over time? More than 25% of children in Marion County live in poverty. Let that sink in. 57% and 49% of our children live in homes that receive SNAP benefits. The state rate is 45. So over half of our kiddos are living in houses that, you know, is an income-based program to receive SNAP benefits. Over half of our children. For every 100 households that formed in Marion County, only 89 units were built. So naturally, the homeostasis there would be for every household that's formed, there would be that many housing units being built. So even just this alone shows the deficit that we're having per 100 households. So the main kicker of data for our region related to homelessness is our chronic homelessness rates. Our chronic homelessness rates are out of control. All people that are homeless, out of those that are homeless, in the United States, 17% are chronically homeless. So that means that they're homeless, well, here's the definition here too, but that they're unaccompanied homeless individual with a disabling condition and continuously homeless for a year or more. And then, or it's going to be a disabling condition plus those who have had 4 episodes of homelessness in the past 3 years. So these are our chronic homeless individuals. These are typically those that are the hardest to house, which one of the programs through the Alliance is really focused on chronic homelessness, especially and including veterans homelessness. So out of all the people that are identified as homeless, those that are chronically homeless, we're at almost 50% for Marion and Polk counties. So of our homeless people that you're seeing on the streets and might be living in cars, 50% of them identify as chronically homeless, which means they have a disabling condition and they're homeless for more than a year or 4 episodes of homelessness in the past 3 years. You can see the data here. We are far above the national and the state rates. Of the families that are homeless in our region, nearly 30% of them identify as chronically homeless. The state rate is 6% and in the nation. And then of all individuals that are homeless in our region, 60% of those are chronically homeless. And this is still current for coordinated entry data that we have right now. 60% are chronically homeless. So our affordable housing, kind of going at the top of this housing continuum, we have affordable housing. And I did some calculations to try to establish what this need distribution percent, it's a bit complex to say, but essentially, what is our supply versus need? So affordable housing units in inventory, these are the number of housing units. This is what's decided by the state, I believe. What's the need, the equity distribution percent, and then the equitable distribution of units. So what this means is these numbers here, so over 100% means that supply is meeting demand. So the ideal is going to be over 100%. Both of ours are low, and this shows that this, it actually shows severity. So how severe the gap is for supply meeting demand. So we're 72%, 69%. So on average, 70% we are not meeting demand. So the region has a 1,200 unit deficit in affordable housing units alone. Just to give you some numbers, what's considered affordable rent for those that live on Social Security income is $250 a month. How many units do you know that you could rent for $250 a month? None. Affordable rent at the mean renter wage is $694 a month in Marion and $502 in Polk. So again, how many units do you know that are available, safe, clean, for a family, you know, for less than $700 a month? I mean, it just doesn't exist in our region. So 40% and 35% of all households in our region are renting households. So in a nutshell, the region needs 30%, so that's where this comes in, more affordable housing units to meet the current demand. And the current demand is getting bigger because our number of households formed is increasing and growing. So each year we do what's called a housing inventory count in our region, and the total number of homeless beds in our region for 2020 was just over 1,100. So you can see how some of these break down. We'll get a little bit more into that here. So rapid rehousing, that's the short-term rental assistance and services. That's the most utilized housing program in our region. So 40% of individuals that present needing homeless housing or services, 40% of them are requesting rapid rehousing. And there's an unmet need. There's 63% of individuals that are presenting needing a rapid rehousing that are not being served. Permanent supportive housing, I think we're all pretty well aware that this is a gap in our region, one of the most significant. That's affordable housing assistance with voluntary support services. So those will be people that may have a housing case manager or access to services to help them better acclimate to becoming housed or staying housed. So depending on what those wraparound services look like, permanent supportive housing is the second most utilized program in our region. Of the people that present interest in the system for permanent supportive housing, 46% go unmet need. So very significant in our region. Homeless shelters. So in a nutshell, families without minor children, so families that don't have kids but are a family, they have no options to stay together in an emergency. So if you have a kiddo that's still in high school, that's 18 or above, there's no place for your family to stay together. There's no permanent low barrier. That means there's not all these conditions to get into housing. There's no permanent low barrier emergency shelters for people with pets, male, female partners, or families with male children over the age of 12. So even if you have minor children, if you have a male that's over the age of 12, which I do, I would not be able to stay together with my family or with my son if an emergency situation presented itself and we needed some place to go. Our region also lacks non-sobriety shelter options. So again, it's that low barrier type shelter where sobriety is not a condition. Emergency warming shelter bed nights. Our region has done amazing at increasing the number of emergency shelter beds in cold conditions and even and even when it's very hot out. So it nearly doubled in 1 year to over 7,400 bed nights by creating a duration, so a full winter season emergency shelter. This is really significant, and I have to give Community Action major props for that. So the total number of shelter beds year round and the total number of those people that are known to be homeless, 74% of the homeless population, if you just take it by beds year round and the number of known homeless, 74% of the homeless population in our region would not have access to a shelter bed. So here's some fast facts, if you will, about particular populations. So again, please feel free to share this document. It is on the website under fast facts and local data, but it talks about individuals and some of the highlights. There is a larger document, as I mentioned, that has much, much more information. But here's just in a nutshell, a couple more points. 39% of people experiencing homelessness nationally are girls and women, but it's rising at a disproportionate amount. So women and girls are experiencing unsheltered homelessness, 12%. It rose by 12%, and men only rose by 7%. So women and girls experiencing unsheltered homelessness is rising rapidly throughout the nation. Seniors experience disparities in available affordable housing. So especially seniors that are age 58 to 62. So not only are they often the victims of violent crimes and robbery with their age, especially in the homeless community, but there's no place for, or there's very few options for those that are age 58 to 62. Only 2 properties are found for seniors age 58 and above, and both of those are in Marion County. Domestic violence survivors. So of those that are individuals that present seeking homeless services, nearly half, 44% in Marion County, report a history of domestic violence, and 48% in Polk report a history of domestic violence. There's only 31 domestic violence designated beds in both regions, only 31 for those that are coming in seeking domestic violence support. It doesn't mean that other beds they can't use if they're open, but there's 31 that are designated for domestic violence related survivors. The Oregon facts that I thought were just astonishing is 1 in 5 homicides in Oregon, 1 in 5 are the result of domestic violence or intimate partner violence. So not only is domestic violence a huge issue, but it also leads to homicide at high rates in Oregon. More than 8,000 women that have presented in Oregon and been documented experiencing sexual abuse remain in need of domestic violence services. So the number of services has increased, the utilization of services has increased, but there's still a huge deficit for individuals that are seeking services and are getting served. So for families, there's 160 designated family beds or 52 units in our region. So what that breaks down to is of the 373 individuals that are experiencing homelessness as a family, there's only 160 family beds. So 373, 160, it doesn't quite equate there. 52 family designated units exist to serve the 120 identified homeless families. So our capacity is 52, and we have 120 identified homeless families. 31% of homeless individuals in the region experience homelessness as part of a family. This is a growing trend as we're finding more information out about our population, is that of those that are homeless now, 31% or more are saying, yeah, I experienced being homeless as a kiddo. So there's a huge opportunity here for youth and young adult homelessness and trying to break that cycle and break the generational poverty that might be associated with why and how people become homeless later on in life. And then again, families that wish to remain intact have no shelter options to stay together. How many times have you seen individuals that are experiencing homelessness sleeping on the street with a pet? Well, oftentimes those pets are their family and maybe one of the most consistent people in their life or souls in their life. So a lot of individuals are choosing to not get shelter if they can't bring their pets, and there's no shelter options for individuals to seek shelter with their pets. Veterans, 10% of our population is veterans. The Oregon rate is 9%. Polk County has a larger proportion of veterans than Marion County and the state. 34% of the region's homeless veterans are chronically homeless. So this rate is a bit lower than our overall rate, but it's still significant. 19% of those homeless veterans are female, but there's no female beds, female designated beds in the region for female veterans. So there's 36 homeless service beds designated for male veterans. 33% of Marion and 16% of Polk's community members live in rural areas. And yet there's not a lot of options year round for rural shelters. Farm workers and their families have no designated shelter options, and rural areas lack sufficient year-round sheltering, like I mentioned. So youth, over 2,000 students attending Marion and Polk County Public Schools identified as homeless through the McKinney-Vento program. We know this is severely underreported, especially this past year or the current year that we're in. But of those students that were identified, 16% are unaccompanied minors and 10% are unsheltered. Youth often couch surf, so that's where some of the students are going that wouldn't qualify them as unsheltered. But still, we have 192 youth that are identified in the school systems receiving supports through the McKinney-Vento program that are unsheltered and sleeping on the streets. Nearly 200 homeless students attend school in Polk County, but then there's no youth shelter in Polk County. So there's a disparity here also, or as I like to see, an opportunity. 20% of the homeless community members are under the age of 24. Polk County and rural Marion County do not have a youth shelter. And then Salem has one 10-bed youth shelter for ages 11 to 18 and one 14-bed transitional housing program. Otherwise, youth are often left waiting on assistance from the state that may or may not be conditional on funding, all sorts of different needs, like having a valid driver's license, or not even a driver's license, but just an ID card so that they can apply to get housing or be in a situation where they're sheltered. So that being said, oh, Kim, thank you. Families, both moms and dads, can stay together at St. Francis. So that is, our housing, the housing inventory count. That is something that either was missed or this is something new for our region in terms of the shelter count. So again, it's updated every year, but thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. So that was a lot of information. It really is meant to show you what some of the resources are available to you and helping really put some data-informed material in your hand to make decisions or to help influence decisions being made in our community, because this is such a need. 60% of our homeless population is chronically homeless. That's, 30% of our families are chronically homeless that are homeless. Anyhow.
There's, thank you, Carla. There's several questions in the chat room. First one is from Mary James, and it says, is alcohol or drug dependence among the disabling condition?
I believe it is. Trisha, is that correct?
Say that again?
Yes. Cindy's shaking her head, yes. Alcohol or drug dependence, is that considered a disabling condition? Yes.
Yes, it can be qualified as that. Depends on the degree.
Okay.
And Tim, Cindy, a lot of you would know that answer too.
Yeah, that's great. And then there was a question from Warren about, I don't know, can you see it? It's right under.
Why are so many people here in Marion counties as there are in the US? What draws or keep people here if we don't have space to house them or provide services? Warren, this is a wonderful question. I think there's a lot of anecdotal responses that you could get. Some of them being that this region has a really great reputation for the services that we provide and the individuals that are providing those services. There's a lot of trust in Marion and Polk counties with some of the more culturally specific organizations. And so a lot that's attractive for individuals that are wanting services in a dignified, culturally responsive way. But ultimately, it's nothing that our community has done wrong. It just is the current state of our community, and we're all communities. So all of these members are part of our community. We haven't had sufficient funding to respond to homelessness and prevention of homelessness, although we have a really robust prevention program, primarily through community action, to try to divert those families and prevent them from becoming homeless. But being a part of the rural Oregon Continuum of Care, we didn't stand out in our region, on a larger scale for getting more proportion of funding to support these programs that are so successful. So we could be considered to be even more underfunded than other areas in Oregon because we are a part of this larger continuum and kind of lost in translation with all the additional data. So that was one of the reasons we wanted to pull ourselves out, was to create more of a local story to try to attract more funding for our region to help with this. I called it to Ashley this morning, is, talk about a pandemic. I mean, this is for our community, it is a pandemic.
So thank you. And then a last question is from Linda around mental health and wondering what's being done to increase resources from Marion County Mental Health to help with outreach and mental health services.
Well, currently we are doing we received an intern from PSU, and she has a list of partners, and she's doing some outreach to understand what the available resources are for our community and identify where the gaps are in resources. We know that historically and currently behavioral health is not sufficiently meeting the need. I think that's probably an understatement for our region, especially. There's, probably a lot of contributing factors. Tim, I see you shaking your head, and I imagine you can answer that question better than I can.
Well, workforce development is really a big issue, both in the behavioral health and chemical dependency. We really need to support those programs and develop more professional folks. If you look at the Salem Reporter today, you'll see an article about connected to ballot measure 110, but it talks about a program in Central Oregon that lost staff to Starbucks because they were getting paid better at Starbucks, so they're getting paid as a professional. So we as a community really need to address this issue, professionalize the field, and create opportunity for people to really progress. And to date, the state identifies, Carla, you just done a great job of reflecting what's going on in our community. Excellent job. But we have yet to figure out, okay, what's it going to take to really move the needle? And shelter beds don't move the needle to homelessness, but jobs do. And creating hope for folks does. And addressing the health issues, the addictions, the mental health, and also the chronic medical conditions that folks living on the street develop. And we really need to build a plan to do that before we'll see real improvement in those numbers.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So to wrap up, Carla, thank you so much for this information and really helping us understand maybe ways that we can help influence and leverage opportunities and making a true change in these challenges that our families and individuals face. In your honor, we are going to make a donation in your name to our very own Salem Rotary Foundation. So thanks so much for being here, and really what you are doing in our community. It is very, very important, all the facets that you are tackling in your work as a consultant. So again, kudos to you personally and professionally.
Sweet. Thank you guys very much. That's so kind. I'm be so happy to share that with the rest of the team.
Great, thank you. So in wrapping up, next week's meeting will be with Rich Duncan on the municipal, big word for the day, municipal construction in Detroit, and also presenter Melissa Bauer talking about the family impacts on the Santiam fire. So another very informative and important program for us next week. So with that, I will ring the bell and hope everybody has a wonderful day. So take care, everybody.